Hello YouTube. The Vasyugan marshes or swamps are located on the border of several Russian regions of Novosibirsk, Tomsk, Tyumen, Omsk regions, and part of the Khanty-Mansi Autonomous District. You see, at that point begin, so to say, the large tributaries of the mighty Irtysh and Ob rivers. But the greatest interest of scientists is still what is hidden under the largest swamp in the world. And not only of scientists, of course. According to those scientists, the swamping of the area began 10,000 years ago. But the growth of the swamp does not stop even now. Over the past 500 years, the natural area has increased by about 4 times. The most interesting thing is that swamp is alive and it is growing, adding several hundred hectares per year. And such an offensive, so to say, can be compared to the sands of the desert. There's a legend where the ancient Vasyugan sea or lake is mentioned. However, studies have shown that this natural zone was not formed as a result of the swamping of reservoirs. In this case, everything happened for a different reason. A quite natural, unique zone was formed as a result of the onset of those swamps on land. This happened under the influence of favorable orographic conditions as well as a very humid climate. Initially, there were 19 plots on the site of that swamp. Their area was approximately 45,000 square kilometers. However, the quagmire or swamp or marsh gradually absorbed the surrounding lands. This can be compared again to the offensive in the desert of sands. It is worth noting that the Vasyugan swamp is actually a very classic example of the active swamp formation. Isolated marsh massifs arose in the post-glacial era in hollows and lowlands. As the peat spaces increased, an extensive swamp system was gradually formed. Even at the beginning of the 19th century, the locals called these places the Vasyugan Sea. During the spring flood, water from the rivers overflowed the banks or flooded the entire lowland, forming a single body of water. You see, the Vasyugan marshes, after all, are the largest swamp in the world. At the same time, it is not possible to accurately determine the area of the reservoir at the moment. According to rough estimates, the swamp occupies 5,500,000 hectares. That's about 55,000 square kilometers. This is more than Estonia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Denmark, the Netherlands, if we take the areas of the listed European states separately. The Vasyugan marshes are also a huge supply of clean, fresh water, 400 cubic kilometers. In addition, those swamps cool our planet from overheating and they absorb carbon, accumulating it in the peat. In just 1 year, the system of reservoirs in the Vasyugan tundra processes up to 10 million tons of carbon dioxide and produces about 4 million tons of oxygen. Peat reserves amount more than 1 billion tons. The swamp ecosystem is pure water. Well, there is a lot of it on the Vasyugan marshes. According to approximate calculations of scientists, actually there's quite a lot. There's at least 800,000 lakes, which are mostly located in the north of the Vasyugan tundra. Imagine the number. In addition to water, there is purest air. The swamps are the huge lungs of our planet, helping to cool it down, absorb carbon. It in turn accumulates again in the peat deposits and softens the greenhouse effect in the atmosphere. So if there's like almost 1 billion tons of peat in the swamp, and in a year the swamp absorbs up to 10 million tons of carbon dioxide, according to these calculations, and gives out almost 4 million tons of oxygen. Impressive. But that purity is not going to last, unfortunately. So the age of those peat bogs is 10,000 years. At the same time, most of them originated in the last half century. Here's a unique opportunity to observe the geological processes that are being born right before our eyes. The specified characteristics are not a constant value. From a geological point of view, the Vasyugan marshes are of interest because many processes are taking their basically almost before our eyes. New peat deposits, watersheds, lakes, streams, and rivers are being formed. At the same time, it is not yet possible to fully explore the possibilities of the area. In the summertime, large-scale research is hindered by the swamp, mosquitoes, and midges, and in winter, research is impossible due to extremely harsh climatic conditions. A unique region in which a huge amount of minerals is stored, but it can be also destroyed and is destroyed by uncontrolled human activity. And the beginning of this was basically the foundations were laid in the 1990s when poaching flourished in the area. The development of the space exploration industry has had a negative impact on the ecological state of the marshes. The territory is located in the area of falling stages of spacecraft launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. As a result, the reservoir is gradually polluted with toxic rocket fuel. Residents of settlements located on the outskirts of the swamps are gradually leaving the area because of the dangerous neighborhood. Many villages have already disappeared, and this process continues. Through the ages, different peoples lived near the Vasyugan swamps. The Selkups and Hanti considered their home and were not at all afraid to be on it, but they have been cautious about certain phenomena there, and I'll talk about it. At the end of the 19th century, settlers from central Russia of the Russian Empire began to settle near Vasyugan. Russian peasants who came here during the Stolypin reform for the free land. The folklorists came to their descendants more than once. However, this is interesting. The Tomsk, that's a Siberian city, researchers could not recall the material where the swamp was actually mentioned. Nothing was found in Novosibirsk either. The Center of Russian Folklore and Ethnography of the Novosibirsk region even published a book titled Folklore of Vasyugan, but even there the researchers did not collect any stories or songs about the swamp. But they should have asked either more people or those who have been there much longer than the newcomers from other parts of the country. One mystery of the Vasyugan marshes is the unexplained white circle on the surface of the water. They have been spotted from helicopters more than once since the middle of the last century. Rumors began to spread that UFOs were landing in the swamps. But how about the antiquity? From the point of view of archaeology, the marshes of the Vasyugan tundra are almost unexplored. It is believed that the remains of ancient burial grounds may be located in the marshes themselves. But the marshy area of the Vasyugan tundra, again, has not been studied by archaeologists really. In winter, such research is impossible, and in the summer, the archaeologists are basically hindered by the swamp and the same blood-sucking mosquitoes. Expeditions get to the area on all-terrain vehicles. This is a rather dangerous journey that requires preparation and experience, since it is difficult to get here in the summer because of the marshy terrain of large number of those mosquitoes. They're horrible. I knew people who had to experience them, and this is not at all pleasant experience. And basically in the winter, archaeologists have nothing to do here at all. However, according to some scientists, in particular one named Glushkov, who described the Kratovsky culture of the Irtysh river basin, people of three cultures lived in the swamps: Kratovsky, Odinovsky, and Urtartasky. Apparently, once upon a time, people of ancient cultures lived here, and that dates back to the basically from 16th to 10th century before Common Era. They lived in semi-dugouts, engaged in cattle breeding and hunting, fished and buried the dead with their heads to the northeast, while putting bronze daggers, axes, marble maces, bone ornaments in the form of snakes and bears, earrings and temple earrings, jugs and round spheres in the graves of relatives. And again, this goes back to the 16th to 10th century BC. Bone ornaments in the form of bears or snake figures, temple rings and earrings. Again, this was found in the graves. For some reason, strange round objects in the form of balls or spheres were put in the grave of the dead. In 1968, on the banks of the Vareny-Igai River, sensational ritual masks were discovered at that time. They were called the Vasyugan masks. These masks are about the age of 1 millennium Common Era. Scientists consider the receptacles that they are receptacles of the souls of the dead. So the so-called Vasyuganya veneers or masks, bronze ritual masks created in the first millennium of our era, and the scientists still argue about their purpose. According to some reports, local residents put them on rag dolls, which allegedly possess the soul of the deceased. And according to others, disguises were used during funerals. Do not think that no one lives in the swamps today. Oh no, on the outskirts there are villages of the Samoyeds or Selkups. Until now, the Selkups, also known as Ostyaks or Samoyed, have settled here. There are small numbered people of Western Siberia with their own unique culture. They call themselves Selkup. Actually, they're natives of ancient Iran. Their Pezerik culture is unique and ancient. Its roots go back to the about 6th to 3rd centuries before Common Era. Grave mounds of their ancestors are still found on the slopes of the Altai. It was the Pezerik people who traditionally mummified the bodies of dead relatives, and their skin was generously strewn with a variety of ritual tattoos. In their culture, it was customary to put a lot of tattoos on the body, denoting significant stages of life. Let's look at their beliefs. According to local legend, there was no land on the planet at the creation of the world. The swamps appeared because the devil spat out a part of the land that he collected from the bottom of the sea. And the beliefs of the Selkups are most interesting. They say that the Vasyugan marshes are inhabited by evil gods who frighten lost hunters and tourists. Among these spirits, there is a 7-winged bear, Selkup or Selkup, the personification of the devil. He has 2 guises, a huge snake and an eagle with iron feathers like knives. According to their beliefs, a man-eating bear lives somewhere in the most impenetrable wilds. In general, the bear for the Selkup is a divine being. He was worshipped because they believed that after his death, a person turns into a bear. The Samoyed even paid homage to the bear's skin. They danced for it, sang and kissed it with reverence. If by chance they had to kill the bear, the Selkups apologized and blamed the Russians for his murder. And there is also a bear in the swamps devouring people and sometimes coming to the settlements of the Selkup, they believe. According to the beliefs of the Selkup, every person turns into a bear after death. Therefore, they are considered relatives, and it is forbidden to kill them just like that. Actually, they said that this about the man-eating bear, that it appears when a person commits unseemly deeds or makes mistakes. Just some notes of interest about the history of the area. In 1951, 1956, expeditions were conducted, the purpose of which was to identify the boundaries and area of the swamps, determine the peat reserves, their qualitative characteristics, and features of the structure of deposits. So many survey sites were inaccessible for ground-based research, and for the first time in these years, the air visual method was used. They were filming from the Po-2 aircraft, and it was carried out in 1952 along 15 projected itineraries with a total length of 1,318 kilometers from a height of 200 meters at a flight speed velocity of 100 to 135 kilometers per hour. It was not an easy endeavor. In the 1990s, actually, after the fall of the Soviet Union and ensuing chaos, many hunters came here. This poaching remained uncontrolled, and only in recent years strict measures have been taken, but the poaching left devastation behind. The reindeer that lived here were practically exterminated. Many more animals and birds are now on the verge of extinction. The curlew, which has disappeared in the rest of the Russian Federation, peregrine falcon, steppe harrier, sturge, whooper swan, black stork, sable, otter, and many other from the Red Book of Animals. The oil and gas began to be extracted in the marshes, and because of these industrial developments, cadmium and lead began to accumulate in peat. The rocket stages of spaceships that, as I said, were launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome spaceport often fall into the swamps, and the whole area is gradually polluted with very toxic rocket fuel, and villages on the outskirts, which the Russian state has abandoned and forgotten, are slowly dying out and disappearing from the face of the earth. The third stage of overall research of the marshes, which began in the 1980s and continues to this day, focuses on the study of the biosphere role of the largest swamp system in the world. Since 1994, on its northeastern spurs in the Bakhcharsky district near the village of Polynyanka, several hospitals are constantly operating where employees of the Siberian Institute of Agriculture, hydrologists and geographers of the Tomsk State University conduct research. The sites are equipped with a network of observation platforms connected by wooden bridges on which samples of swamp water, peat and soil vegetation are taken using modern automated equipment. Around the clock monitoring of the carbon uptake, methane emissions, and other important physical-chemical indicators. All of this is being carried out. And what's interesting, in 2017, the Vasyugan Center for Collective Use was established at the Tomsk State University, organizing the casting and ensuring the process of work on the Vasyugan marshes of Russian and foreign scientific groups. So maybe there is some hope, maybe. There's something else very interesting in the marshes. According to zoologists of the Tomsk State University Institute of Systematics and Ecology of Animals of the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences in Novosibirsk, the total number of common vipers in the Tomsk region is 300,000 individuals. For a significant part of them, the expanses of the Vasyugan marshes are home. Viper venom is hemolytic, without neurotoxic effects, affects primarily the circulatory system as it destroys red blood cells, increasing vascular permeability and increases blood clotting. The most dangerous situations are when the human immune system responds to the ingestion of poison with an immediate type of reaction, anaphylactic shock and Quincke's edema. Bites to the heart and neck can also lead to fatal outcomes. But in general, viper venom is not fatal to humans, according to scientists. Its healing qualities have been used by medicine for many centuries. Currently, it is used to produce effective remedies for the treatment of neuralgia, polyarthritis, rheumatism, sciatica, and hemophilia. As a component, the poison is part of a wide range of anti-inflammatory drugs, analgesic gels, and ointments. The price of 1 gram of viper venom on the European market reaches €500. In the United States, up to $1,000. Probably with current inflation, it's much more. In the 1960s, 1980s, several large serpentariums operated in the USSR, where vipers were milked, so to say, for the needs of the pharmaceutical industry. In modern Russia, there is only one such institution, the Siberian Herpetological Center, located in Novosibirsk. It contains about 1,500 milking vipers, the snakes that are prized for their venom. Herpetologists catch them for their farm, so to say, including in the areas of the Vasyugan marshes, located in the Novosibirsk region. So there you go. You learned about another fascinating territory of Eurasia, which has its own paranormal phenomena, and I am sure when there will be more archaeological research, we will find out much more about this area. Thank you for your attention to my work. If you can support my research, you can find out how to do it in the links to this video, and I'll bring you more interesting stories about Eurasia and other parts of the world. Please like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for your attention to my work.